Be me, 24, a few years ago, working a soul-sucking IT help desk job. The kind where you follow a script to tell Brenda from accounting to turn her monitor on and off again. Living in a cramped one-bedroom apartment with my girlfriend of 5 years, Sarah. We met in college. She was bright, ambitious. I was comfortable. Our life was a loop of work, cheap takeout, and Netflix. I thought it was cozy. Looking back, it was stagnation. Around the 5 year mark, things started to feel off. She was always on her phone, smiling at the screen, not my texts. Started going to a new, trendy gym. It's for me, she'd say. I need to work on myself. Late nights out with the girls from work became a weekly thing. I'm not a jealous guy, but my gut was doing backflips. I was too scared to confront her, too scared of what I'd find. Denial is a warm blanket even when your house is on fire. One Thursday, my boss lets us all go home a few hours early. Server maintenance or something. I'm actually excited. Maybe Sarah and I can have a real dinner, connect a bit. I walk up to our apartment door, humming a stupid song. I hear voices inside. A man's voice I don't recognize. Deep, confident laughter. My key feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. I open the door. There she is on our couch, laughing with some guy who looks like he was built in a lab to sell protein powder. 6'2", perfect jawline, arms straining the sleeves of his tight V-neck. They weren't doing anything physical, just a vibe, an intimacy that I hadn't shared with her in months. They both jump when they see me. Sarah's face goes from flushed and happy to pale and horrified. Anan, you're home early. The guy stands up. He's even bigger up close. This is Mark, she says, her voice trembling. He's a friend from the gym. Mark just gives me a nod, not apologetic, almost challenging. The breakup was a blur of cliches. It's not what you think. We've just grown apart. I need something more. But the line that really twisted the knife, the one she said with cold, clear eyes after Mark had left and we were standing in the ruins of our life. I'm sorry, Anan. I just want to be with a winner, someone who's actually going somewhere. She packed a bag that night, moved in with him less than a week later. I was left alone in an apartment that echoed with her absence. Her favorite mug still by the sink, her scent on the pillows. I completely fell apart, stopped eating, stopped sleeping properly. Just work, stare at the ceiling, repeat. Friends would call. I'd ignore them. In my head, she was right. She had won. She'd upgraded, and I was the loser she'd left behind. This went on for 2 solid months, just a ghost rattling around an empty apartment. Then my best friend Dave showed up unannounced. He's one of those brutally honest types. No sugarcoating. He took one look at me, 15 pounds lighter, beard all patchy, eyes like a sad basset hound, and just said, "Jesus Christ, man." He didn't hug me or tell me it would be okay. He kicked a pile of dirty laundry out of the way, sat on my coffee table and looked me dead in the eye. "She won," he said, his voice flat. "Right now, looking at you, she fucking won the breakup. You're letting her win. Are you good with that?" I had nothing to say. He was right. It was like a bucket of ice water to the face. The anger finally burned through the fog of self-pity. "No," I croaked. "Good," he said, standing up. "Get your shoes on. We're going to the gym." It wasn't her fancy gym with smoothie bars and yoga classes. It was a loud, rusty, old-school dungeon full of powerlifters who looked like they gargled nails for breakfast. It was terrifying. And perfect. The first day was humiliating. I struggled to bench the empty bar, but I went back the next day. And the next. The physical pain was a welcome distraction from the hollow ache in my chest. I started eating again, but properly this time. Protein, vegetables, not just ramen and despair. Slowly, painfully, I started to feel like I was inhabiting my own body again. Step 2 was reclaiming my space. One Saturday, I bought a bunch of cardboard boxes. I went through the apartment and packed up every single thing that was hers. Old photos, gifts, clothes she'd left behind, the stupid decorative pillows she bought. Every item was a memory, a little paper cut on the heart. I cried, a lot. It was pathetic and necessary. But when I taped up that last box and shoved it into the back of a closet, the air in the apartment felt lighter. It was just my stuff now, my space. It wasn't our apartment anymore. It was my home. The physical and environmental changes were good, but the evenings were still a killer. The silence was a void that my brain would fill with replays of the breakup, of her words. Winner. I needed a new obsession. Something to do with my hands to keep my mind quiet. My grandpa used to be a carpenter. As a kid, I loved his workshop, the smell of sawdust and wood stain, the hum of the tools. I Googled woodworking classes near me, found a community workshop in an industrial part of town. It was mostly retired guys who just wanted a place to hang out and build things. I signed up for a beginner's course. First day, I felt like a total fraud. I was the youngest person there by about 30 years. Everyone else seemed to know exactly what they were doing. An old guy named George, with hands like gnarled oak and a kind smile, saw me struggling to use a hand plane. "You're trying to force it, son," he said, his voice gravelly. "Let the tool do the work, just guide it." He spent the next hour showing me the basics, how to read the grain of the wood, how to make a clean cut. He was patient and calm. He didn't care that I was a complete novice. My first project was a small dovetail box. The joints were gappy, the lid was slightly crooked, and the finish was blotchy. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. I had made something real, something tangible. I took a block of plain wood and turned it into something else. I was hooked. The IT job paid the bills, but the workshop became my life. I'd rush there after work, stay until they closed, spend all my weekends covered in sawdust. The focus it required was a form of meditation. When you're guiding a piece of cherry through a table saw, you can't be thinking about your ex. You can only think about the saw, the wood, and your fingers. I built a small bookshelf, then an end table, then a proper coffee table to replace the cheap IKEA one Sarah and I had built together. Each project made me better, more confident. My apartment started to look like a real adult lived there, filled with solid handmade furniture that I had crafted myself. About a year had passed since D-Day. I was a different person. I'd gained 20 pounds of muscle. I was eating healthy. I had a fulfilling hobby that I was passionate about. I wasn't a winner, but I no longer felt like a loser. I just felt like me. I was out with Dave and a couple of other buddies at a new craft brewery. We were laughing, having a good time. Then the brewery door opened and they walked in. Sarah and Mark. My blood ran cold. My stomach did a nervous little flip. The old me, the scared me, wanted to run to the bathroom and hide. Dave saw my face, followed my gaze, and just put a firm hand on my shoulder. "Deep breaths, dude. You're not that guy anymore." He was right. They spotted me a moment later. Sarah's perfectly made-up face froze. Her eyes went wide and she did a visible double-take. She was looking at me, but it was like she didn't recognize me. She leaned over and whispered something to Mark. He glanced over, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. And then, to my horror, they started walking toward our table. "Oh my God, Anan," Sarah said, forcing a bright, surprised smile. "I almost didn't recognize you. You look great." The way she said it wasn't entirely a compliment. It was laced with surprise and maybe a hint of something else, confusion. Mark stood beside her, arms crossed over his massive chest. He gave me that same look from a year ago, the sizing up look. "Hey," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I even managed a small, polite smile. "Sarah, Mark, how are you?" "We're great," Mark boomed, immediately taking over the conversation. "Just crushing it. I'm managing the gym now." "That's cool," I said, nodding. "So what have you been up to?" Sarah asked, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. Still doing the IT thing. Here it was, the moment of truth. The old me would have mumbled something, felt ashamed of my boring job, but I wasn't the old me. "Yeah, still there for now," I said calmly. "But I've been spending most of my free time on a new hobby, woodworking." She blinked. "Woodworking? Like building birdhouses or something?" There was a hint of condescension in her voice, the same tone she used to use when I got excited about a new video game. I just smiled. "Something like that. Made most of the furniture in my apartment now." Mark was clearly bored. He wanted to talk about his deadlift PR or his new car. He wasn't the center of attention, and it was irking him. My friends, sensing the tension, expertly changed the subject. We chatted for another minute, the most awkward, stilted conversation ever. Then I stood up. "Well, it was good seeing you both. We were just about to head out. Enjoy your night." I shook Mark's hand. He gave it a squeeze, the classic alpha power move. A year ago, it would have crushed my hand and my spirit. Now, after a year of handling heavy lumber and tools, my grip was solid. I just met his pressure with a firm, steady calm. His smile faltered for a second. I gave Sarah a polite nod, turned around, and walked away with my friends. No yelling, no snide remarks, no drama, just a clean, quiet exit. As we were leaving, I heard Dave's girlfriend whisper to him, "Wow, he handled that really well." It was better than any revenge I could have ever imagined. It wasn't about her anymore. That encounter lit a new fire under me. Friends started asking me to build things for them. A desk for Dave, a set of floating shelves for another friend. They all insisted on paying me. I started an Instagram account at Anon's woodshop or something equally uninspired just to post photos of my projects. To my shock, people started following it, strangers. I got a message from a local interior designer. She loved my style, simple, modern, solid wood. She asked if I took commissions. Suddenly, I had a wait list. I was working my IT job from 9 to 5, then heading straight to the community workshop and staying until 10 p.m. I was exhausted and deliriously happy. George, my old mentor, pulled me aside one evening. "You're burning the candle at both ends, son," he said, wiping stain from his hands. "You've got a gift for this. You can't do it justice when you're half dead from your day job." He told me about a small, affordable workshop space for rent a few towns over. The thought was terrifying. Quitting my stable, soul-crushing job for a passion that might not pay the bills, it was the biggest risk of my life. I spent a week agonizing, running the numbers, my stomach in knots. Then I thought about Brenda from accounting. I thought about the next 40 years of telling people to restart their computers. The next Monday, I walked into my boss's office and gave my 2 weeks' notice. The first year of running my own business was the hardest thing I've ever done. 16-hour days, living off savings, the constant nagging fear of failure, but I was building something. With my own 2 hands, my business, my life. My work got better. I found my own style. I built a reputation for quality and craftsmanship. By the end of the second year, I was turning a small profit. I hired a part-time helper. I wasn't rich, but I was paying my bills by doing something I loved. I even started dating again. Met a nice girl, a landscape architect named Emily. We connected over our shared love for creating things. It was easy, healthy. It was a Tuesday night, almost 3 years to the day since the breakup. I was in my workshop, sketching out a design for a big dining table commission. The smell of cedar shavings was in the air. My phone buzzed on the workbench. A Facebook message notification. The name on the screen made my heart skip a beat. Sarah. I hadn't heard a word from her or about her since that night at the brewery. A morbid curiosity took over. I opened it. It was a wall of text. A novel. She started by saying a friend had shared a link to my business website. She said she was blown away and so incredibly proud of what I had accomplished. Then the tone shifted. Things with Mark weren't good. They had broken up. The winner she had left me for was, in fact, a deeply insecure and controlling man. He belittled her ambitions to go back to school. He was obsessed with his image, with money, with status. He'd been cheating on her. The irony was thick enough to choke on. She wrote about how empty and superficial her life had become. Then came the paragraphs that made my stomach tighten. "Seeing your work, seeing the passion you put into it, reminded me of the person you always were. You were always so kind, so dedicated to the things you cared about. I was just too young and stupid to appreciate it. I made the biggest mistake of my life, Anon. I threw away something real for something shiny and fake. I know it's a long shot and I have no right to ask, but could we get a coffee? Just to talk. I miss my best friend." I put the phone down and stared at the half-finished sketch on my desk. The 24-year-old version of me would have jumped at this. It was the ultimate validation. The grand prize trophy in the Breakup Olympics. She admitted it. I won, but I wasn't 24 anymore. I didn't feel a surge of triumph. I just felt a quiet sadness. I thought about the man I was back then, insecure, directionless, willing to let his happiness be dictated by someone else. Her leaving me was the catalyst, but I was the one who did the work. I got up off the floor. I lifted the weights. I learned the craft. I built the business. My new life wasn't a revenge plot. I hadn't built it to prove her wrong. I had built it to prove myself right. Her coming back wasn't the final chapter of my story. It was an epilogue to a book I had finished reading a long time ago. I slept on it. The next morning I picked up my phone and typed a reply. I kept it short, honest, final. Hi Sarah. Thanks for the kind words about my work, I appreciate it. I'm sorry to hear you're going through a rough time, and I genuinely hope you find what you're looking for. But I don't think it's a good idea for us to meet. That part of my life is in the past, and I'm really happy with the life I have now. I wish you all the best. I hit send. There was no anger, no bitterness, just closure. A moment later, she replied with a single, I understand. I put my phone away, picked up a smoothing plane, and set it to a fine shaving. As the perfect paper-thin curl of walnut peeled away from the board, the sun streamed through my workshop window. I wasn't a winner because she had lost. I was a winner because I had built a life I was proud of, all on my own. And it felt good, it felt real.